Welcome to the relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. In Argentina, one of only two champions in the light flyweight division, Evelyn Bermudez, the two-time unified WBO and IBF champion, made another successful defense of her two titles opposite the ring, Jessica Salazar, who she stopped. She stopped by way of an 8th round TKO stoppage to remain this division's unified WBO and IBF champion, Jessica Salazar, who up until that point had never been stopped.
Oh, well, there's a first time for everything.
And Evelyn Bermudez stopped Jessica Salazar for the very first time. Evelyn Bermudez, who is best described as a mid-range to inside volume puncher, not big on form, but big on activity. She throws punches in bunches, very aggressive, just like her older sister, Daniela.
Of the Fighting Bermudez's.
Evelyn isn't the strongest puncher at light flyweight per se. I'd say that punch for punch, the only other champion at this weight, Jessica Niri Plata, is a bigger puncher than she is.
Yeah.
That Mexico's own Jessica Niri Plata has more power in a single punch than Evelyn, but Evelyn does make up for it by being a combination puncher, throwing punches in bunches to try and overwhelm her opponent as she crashes the pocket. Sporting a professional record of 20 wins with 1 loss, 1 draw, 7 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 22 professional bouts.
She gets around.
She gets busy. What is immediately apparent about Evelyn Bermudez upon surveying her resume is she's not afraid to fight, and she's not afraid to travel. She's already fought some good fighters, some very good fighters like Yairineth Altuve, Yo Costavalle here in America, Ken Clavel in Canada.
She's not afraid to travel.
I will say that I don't actually think Evelyn beat Kim Clavel legitimately. I think Evelyn got lucky, really lucky.
She won a split decision.
I think Kim Clavel should have won the fight, but Kim, she was the hometown fighter and the house fighter. She had that working for her, so when the judges score the fight for Evelyn, you can't claim foul play. You can't claim the decision was rigged when, why would they rig the decision in Evelyn's favor? She's the away fighter.
If nothing else, what that fight accents is that Evelyn's not afraid to fight and she's not afraid to travel, because she fought Yo Costavalle here in America and she fought Kim Clavel in Canada.
She's a game fighter and one of only 2 champions in today's light flyweight division. That's been the situation for over a year now. All 4 alphabet titles at light flyweight are split between 2 fighters, 2 champions. So why are they not fighting each other? And it's likely because they both make more money defending their 2 alphabet titles against, say, Senicia Estrada than they would unifying them against each other.
There hasn't been a push from either side to get the other champion in the ring. There's been no push from Jessica Niri Plata's side, no push from Evelyn Bermudez's side to shoot for undisputed.
Frankly, I think they're both waiting for Senicia Estrada to move up. And because Senicia Estrada has already become the minimum weight division's undisputed champion, there isn't much reason to stay there. In all likelihood, she is going to move up. She's going to drop those titles and shoot for undisputed at light flyweight.
How does a fight between Senicia Estrada and Evelyn Bermudez break down?
Well, I think the aesthetic of that match would look a lot like the aesthetic of what was Estrada versus Tsunami. Tenkai Tsunami, former WBO champion at this same weight where that fight took place. You did notice that Tenkai was a little taller and a little longer than Senicia Estrada. She could take her power.
She wasn't as good a boxer as Senicia
in terms of form and function, but she was big, she was strong, and she was a combination puncher like Evelyn is a combination puncher, an aggressive one. So when I think about this fight, that's the one that comes to mind, and that was good preparation for a fight like this.
That Senicia won't be in unfamiliar territory against the slightly taller, longer combination puncher.
I expect that Senicia Estrada is going to move up in weight in her very next fight, and this might be who she fights next. That in as little as 2 fights, Senicia could see herself crowned a 2-time undisputed champion.
She beats Evelyn.
Yeah, I think she can. I think she does. Senicia Estrada and Evelyn Bermudez share a common opponent in Yo Costavalle. Yo Costavalle beat Evelyn some fights ago. Some fights later, Evelyn Bermudez is a unified champion again. And if you put that same Evelyn in the ring with Senicia, I do think Senicia beats her. Senicia's got a choice. She can fight Jessica Plata for her 2 alphabet titles, or she can fight Evelyn Bermudez for hers. And I think she'll fight Evelyn Bermudez. I think that's the route she'll go. Evelyn, who has successfully defended her 2 alphabet titles this weekend, but if she puts them on the line against Senicia, I think she loses them. I think Senicia beats her. Men's super lightweight news. Ahead of his fight with Frank Martin that no one is talking about, Gervonta Davis said, look at Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. Then look at my fight versus Ryan. If Ryan looked any different, he probably looked worse versus Haney.
What?
Bigger, much slower. He only hit him with the same punch I told everybody about. A hook. A hook.
Wait, what is he trying to say? That he fought a better version of Ryan Garcia than Devin did?
Devin was sitting right there to be caught with the hook, and they were talking about this guy as pound for pound. Come on, he's trash. He's trash.
What, you needed Ryan Garcia to prove that for you?
He's making it all the more obvious that what he's really doing here is looking for a victory by proxy. That because he beat Ryan and Ryan beat Devin, in his own mind, it's like he beat Devin. When boxing math doesn't work like that, and triangle theories don't work.
You can expect Ryan Garcia to be a big part of the Davis versus Martin promotion.
You can expect to see and hear more of this because they're going to use the name of Ryan Garcia in a potential fight with him to sell a Frank Martin fight that nobody was asking for and nobody is talking about, as Gervonta Davis has welcomed Ryan Garcia's calls for a rematch in the future, but dismissed his catchweight demand and said it should take place at super lightweight.
You're saying that Gervonta Davis is going to clout chase Ryan Garcia?
Yes.
Even though he already knocked out Ryan Garcia?
Yes, because Ryan Garcia has effectively crossed over into the mainstream. Even with this steroid controversy, Ryan is monopolizing a lot of attention inside and outside of the boxing world, whereas Gervonta...
Ryan is all anybody can talk about right now, good or bad.
Bible thumpers, Trump supporters, conspiracy theorists, everybody's talking about Ryan. And that doesn't even include the casual boxing fan. Those are demographics and groups of individuals that exist outside of the world of boxing. That's who Ryan Garcia is appealing to, whereas the kind of people that Gervonta appeals to are the Fire Stick kids, the Fire Stick committee. Kind of guys, they don't fucking pay for anything.
Bums.
Degenerates. You're only going to sell but so many pay-per-views with a core fan base like that. You will notice that Gervonta Davis's numbers hovered around 200,000 pay-per-view buys up until he fought Ryan.
With Ryan, he sold a little over 1 million. Now without him,
You're not going to do over 1 million or 1 million with droopy-eyed Frank. You're not going to do 500,000 with droopy-eyed Frank.
guy needs to get some sleep.
I'll tell you something, that even though Ryan Garcia lost the first fight between them, he shouldn't make any concessions to Gervonta Davis. If he gets through this entire anti-doping fiasco and they settle those affairs, the last thing that Ryan Garcia should do is make concessions to Gervonta, because Gervonta needs him, but he doesn't need Gervonta.
He should have never made those concessions the first time.
Was being young and stubborn and headstrong, not realizing that Gervonta Davis wasn't going to do numbers like that with anybody else. And that was the leverage that Ryan had over him, that you shouldn't adhere to a catchweight and a rehydration clause when he needs you more than you need him.
That was the situation before. That's still the situation now.
That's the question I'm with. He's a snake in the suit. That's all. He's a snake.
You talking about Eddie Hearn?
Bro, he let what's the guy's name?
Conor Ben
test positive, and it was still gonna let him fight. Still was gonna let him fight.
Dillian White fought after he tested.
Who?
Dillian White, the heavyweight.
Dylan White, after testing positive, he fought. I didn't even know that. Bro, he's a snake, bro.
Hey, Tank,
He's bad for you.
Gervonta Davis, like several others, is making the insinuation that somehow Eddie Hearn is behind Ryan Garcia's anti-doping fiasco.
Because what the fuck does Eddie Hearn have to do with anything?
Garcia versus Haney was not a Matchroom show. It was a Golden Boy Promotions show. Golden Boy Promotions were the ones running things and overseeing everything.
And what is he talking about Eddie Hearn for? Why is he trying to shift the focus over to Eddie Hearn?
Because he's fucking stupid. He doesn't actually know how stupid he is or how stupid he sounds.
Ryan Garcia tests positive for 2 steroids, and all you want to talk about is Eddie Hearn. Why? What are you trying to say?
You're saying that because Eddie Hearns' fighter, Conor Ben, tested positive for a banned substance, Eddie is bad for business, but Conor didn't actually get to fight The fight was called off.
The fight with Chris Eubank. So, what the fuck are you talking about? Moreover, if you're trying to insinuate that Eddie had any involvement in Ryan Garcia's positive anti-doping test, I mean, if he had that kind of juice, wouldn't he have protected his own fighter, Conor Benn, over a year ago? If he had the inside track on VADA?
If he could pull some strings behind the scenes, wouldn't he have protected his own fighter?
Gervonta's too fucking stupid to realize how stupid he sounds.
Seriously, the kid is seriously fucking stupid. And it's not because he's an athlete, it's not because he's a boxer, it's because he's a fucking moron. He's trying to manufacture a conspiracy and doing a piss-poor job of it because one would think that if Eddie Hearn has that kind of influence over VADA, he would have used it to protect his own fighter. But his own fighter got popped the same way that Ryan got popped.
So what is it then? Are the global elites and Klaus Schwab, the lizard people, are they after Conor Benn too? Because he got busted the same way that Ryan got busted.
Is the Illuminati trying to silence Conor too? AOC, the far-left media, got busted the same way that Ryan got busted by the exact same anti-doping organization.
I don't think Gervonta thought this through, which isn't surprising.
I don't think Gervonta Davis or any of his sycophants are doing a good enough job patching up the plot holes in this little narrative, this little story they're telling about VADA, questioning their integrity, their legitimacy. Because what? Because Ryan says so? So does that mean that every fighter that VADA has busted so far is now made innocent?
Where does the conspiracy begin?
The same VADA that just busted Ryan also busted two guys that have fought under the Matchroom banner, Dillian White, Conor Benn.
What, it's only a conspiracy when it involves Ryan, but it's not a conspiracy when it involves them? What, that VADA's good at catching cheaters in the act, except when it comes to Ryan?
When it comes to Ryan, he's innocent. They set him up. But when they caught those guys, oh no, that was legitimate, that was real.
What?
It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? That if what you're trying to do is implicate VADA and implicate Eddie Hearn, you then have to reconcile why two guys he's done business with also got caught.
Gervonta Davis is a fucking idiot. His fans are fucking idiots.
Unbeaten up-and-comer Conor Benn caught wind that Gervonta Davis has had his name in his mouth this weekend, and he responded by saying, "Here he is, the woman-beating Oompa Loompa. You didn't even want to negotiate, Gervonta, so if and when you do, I've told you, I'll meet you in the middle of the ring, and we'll have it, you prick."
Gervonta has to talk about Eddie Hearn. He has to talk about Conor Benn and Ryan Garcia and the conspiracy, because it's the only way to get attention on his fight with Frank. Droopy-eyed Frank.
Nobody's talking about the fight with droopy-eyed Frank. Nobody asked for the fight with droopy-eyed Frank. So he has to latch on to anything and everything else that is happening in the world of boxing to get attention.
Good luck, because I don't think doing any of that shit is going to sell pay-per-views.
There are too many plot holes in that narrative for it to make sense. If you've got two functioning brain cells...
Stupid.
This is what happens when stupid people get together. They say a bunch of stupid shit.
That's all.
Now, as it pertains to a fight set to go down on the undercard of Gervonta Davis's next show, veteran trainer Teddy Atlas said, "I just saw the promotion for Benavidez versus Gvozdyk. I truly like Benavidez and his father, but I believe they don't know what they're getting here. I'm picking Gvozdyk," to which a Twitter user, a disgruntled one that goes by the name Junior, said, "I'm picking against you, cause anyone you pick usually loses."
Is that true?
No, that's not true. Not everybody Teddy picks loses. What it is that he's got certain biases against certain fighters. It's not uncommon for him to pick against, say, Anthony Joshua.
It's not that everybody Teddy picks to win loses. It's that sometimes his bias against some fighters is so strong,
it hampers his judgment, his ability to be objective. There is reason enough to be concerned for David Benavidez. This could very well be a miscalculation, because when you look at both fighters side by side, David Benavidez and Alexander Gvozdyk, Gvozdyk looks bigger.
they're eye level to each other.
Yeah, perhaps about the same height and the same reach, but not the same build, not the same kind of frame. And it's unusual to see David Benavidez standing next to someone and look the smaller of the two.
He does.
In recent days, news is broken that Artur Beterbiev, the very injury-prone Artur Beterbiev, has had to withdraw from the June 1st fight date with Dmitry Bivol, which has given rise to some calls for David Benavidez to stand in his place. That David did say he thinks he could beat Dmitry Bivol, he thinks he could stop him, so why not go in there and show us?
It's too late.
Dmitry Bivol will now defend his WBA title against Malik Zinad on June 1st in Saudi Arabia according to Turkey Al-Sheikh. Zanad is coming off a win over Jerome Pempelone in an IBF eliminator 10 days ago. Dimitri is spoken for, and that door is closed. Is closed to David, not that he was about to walk through it. I'm not sure he was.
But whether or not he was or he wasn't, whether he would or he wouldn't, it doesn't matter anymore. They've found a replacement, so David is stuck with Alexander.
When they're side by side with each other, you can see the difference that yes, David is a very big kid. He's big for a super middleweight, but he looks a bit small next to a light heavyweight. A full-blown light heavyweight who used to reign as a champion.
You can see the difference in build between them. Even though they're about the same height, they have about the same reach, you can see that Alexander's got more bone structure, broader shoulders,
thicker neck, and a more pronounced jawline. That this is a bona fide light heavyweight that David will be fighting. David, who has largely benefited from being the bigger man in the ring at 168, not so much at 175, unless we forget the last time that Gvozdyk fought a PBC fighter.
You remember what happened?
Do you remember what he did to Adonis Stevenson? He almost killed him. That's what happened the last time that Alexander Gvozdyk shared the ring with a PBC guy. So, when Teddy Atlas says there's cause for concern here that perhaps Team Benavidez have miscalculated and they're making a mistake, I see what he means.
I see why.
You're telling yourself, well, so what if Alexander is a little bigger and a little thicker?
Veinier.
That's not everything, and I'm not saying it is. You also have to remember, Alexander's not a brute. Alexander's a boxer who can fight on his toes, use his height, use his length to set up punches.
He's got power. We know he has power. We know he's tested at 175, and we also know the only man who beat him is Artur Beterbiev.
And I don't think David Benavidez cracks anywhere near as hard as Artur Beterbiev. He's largely benefited from being the bigger man in the ring and overwhelming his opponents with volume, but against someone who's eye level to him, he might walk into a lot of shots. See, if you're Demetrius Andre or you're Caleb Plant and you're opposite the ring David Benavidez, it's difficult to box and move.
Because he's bigger than you are.
And he's bearing down on you, walking you down. These are not authoritative punchers. These are not particularly strong punchers, whereas Gvozdyk, oh yeah, he's a harder puncher than those guys are, and he's a bigger man, taking up more space than those guys do. He can box and punch safely in all the ways that they can't, because he doesn't need to be close to David to touch him with shots. If he gets full extension on his arm, he can box better on the outside, at least better than those guys can.
So yeah, there's cause for concern.